She was standing right there on my porch when I came back. Arms crossed, chin lifted, eyes full of arrogance. "This is private property now," she snapped, pointing toward the massive building that had popped up on my land like a weed while I was gone. A freaking hotel. Neon sign glowing, cars already parked out front. Strangers dragging suitcases across my driveway. My jaw clenched, but I kept my voice steady. "This is my land," I said, unlocking my gate. Karen laughed like I'd just told the best joke. "No, honey, while you were gone, the HOA approved a community project. You lost your rights." She waved a thick packet of papers in my face, full of fake stamps and signatures. I could see the neighbors peeking through their curtains, waiting to see if I'd crumble. I didn't move. "You built a hotel on my property without even asking me?" I said, every word slow, almost shaking. Karen smirked. "We didn't need to ask. You weren't here and you don't belong here anyway. You should thank us. It raises the value of the neighborhood." My fists tightened, but I knew better than to explode right away. She leaned in closer and hissed, "You have no power here." What she didn't know was that while she thought I was gone for too long, I wasn't on vacation. I was in court, finalizing paperwork she could never undo. My voice dropped low, enough for only her to hear. "You just built me a hotel, and you don't even know it yet." Her face froze for the first time. Karen's fake smile snapped back on her face as if she hadn't just been rattled. "Nice bluff," she said, motioning toward two security guards in cheap uniforms standing near the hotel doors. "Remove him. He's trespassing." The guard stepped forward, but I didn't budge. Instead, I pulled out my phone and swiped open a folder labeled Deeds and Titles. My thumb hovered over the screen, and I let Karen see the county seal glowing on the first page. "You're making a mistake," I told the guards, "because the only trespassers here are standing in front of me." The taller one hesitated, clearly unsure, but Karen barked, "Do your job. This man is dangerous. I'll call the cops myself." She dialed right there, putting on her loudest performance. "Yes, officer. We have a hostile man threatening us on community property. Please send units immediately." She threw me a victorious glare while she spoke. Neighbors were now gathered in small clusters across the street, whispering, phones out, recording everything. I waited, calm, patient, because what Karen didn't know was that the very officers she had called had already been here. Before, months ago, when I filed my complaint about illegal construction, they knew the truth. So when the first squad car rolled up, Karen strutted forward like she was leading a parade. "Right here," she shouted, pointing at me. "Arrest him!" But then the cop stepped out, adjusted his sunglasses, and asked only one question. "Sir, do you have the documents?" I smiled, slid the title across the hood of his cruiser, and said the line that made every neighbor gasp. "This hotel? It's legally mine." Karen's scream tore through the air like glass breaking. Karen's face turned red as the officer carefully studied the documents, flipping through each page with a frown that only grew deeper. The crowd leaned in, phones still rolling. She lunged forward, snatching the papers right out of his hand. "These are fake," she shrieked. "He's a liar. I run this neighborhood. I own this neighborhood." The officer didn't even flinch. He calmly pulled the papers back from her grip and said, "Ma'am, these are official county records." He looked right at me. "Everything checks out." Karen's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. The HOA board approved the project." I finally let out the truth I'd been holding back. There is no HOA board anymore. It was dissolved 6 months ago by a judge's order. And guess who filed that case? I tapped my chest. Me. The silence that followed was heavy. Neighbors started murmuring, some even laughing nervously. Karen's head whipped around, realizing for the first time that the power she had been swinging over everyone had already been stripped away. Then came the moment that made her knees buckle. The officer nodded toward the massive hotel and said, "Ma'am, by building without the owner's consent, you've committed trespassing, fraud, and property damage on a very large scale." His hand hovered near his cuffs. Karen stumbled back. No, this is my project. You can't do this." But I stepped forward, locking eyes with her. "You didn't build a hotel for yourself. You built a business for me. And now every room, every dollar, every inch of this place belongs to me." The crowd erupted with gasps, some even cheering. Karen's lips trembled as she realized her empire had just collapsed in front of the whole neighborhood. Karen's hands were shaking, but her mouth kept running. "This isn't over. I'll sue you for everything you've got," she shouted, her voice cracking. She tried to rally the neighbors, pointing around wildly. "He tricked all of you. He doesn't even deserve to live here." But no one moved in her favor. In fact, one neighbor yelled back, "Karen, you forced us all to pay fake HOA fees for years. We knew something was off." Another chimed in, "You fined me for having my mom's car in the driveway." Phones kept recording, voices rose, and suddenly the crowd wasn't on Karen's side anymore. They were against her. I didn't even need to speak, but I did anyway, because I wanted the final blow to sting. "You spent years bullying everyone, pretending you had power. But the truth is, you were never in charge. Not once." Karen's eyes darted, desperate, and then she tried her last trick. She ran toward the hotel doors, screaming at the front desk clerk inside, "Lock it, don't let him in. He can't take this place." But the officer grabbed her arm before she could get far. "Ma'am, calm down. You're under investigation." The sound of handcuffs clicking around her wrists sent a chill through the air. Karen fought, yelling at the crowd, "You'll regret this. You all will regret this." But the neighbors only held their phones higher, catching every second. I took one long look at the hotel glowing behind her and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "I left for a few months and she thought she stole my land. But all she really did was build my future." The crowd exploded with cheers, and Karen's screams were drowned out by clapping, whistling, and the flashing of cameras as she was led away. The police car door slammed shut on Karen, but even from inside she kept screaming, her voice muffled through the glass. Neighbors crowded closer to me now, some smiling, some shaking their heads in disbelief. One man whispered, "All this time, she made us think we had no choice." Another woman wiped tears and said, "You saved us." But I didn't feel like celebrating yet, because I knew Karen too well. She wasn't the type to accept defeat quietly. She always had one more card to play. And right on cue, my phone buzzed. An email notification popped up from a law firm I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Notice of Emergency Injunction, Hotel Property Dispute." I opened it and my stomach tightened. Karen had filed something in court before. She was even cuffed today, claiming that the hotel was an HOA shared asset and that the neighbors had equal ownership. It was her last desperate move, a legal bomb she planted in advance. The officer beside me noticed the change in my face. "Problem?" he asked. I steadied my breath, then smiled slowly. "Not a problem. An opportunity." I pulled another set of papers from my folder, thicker than the deed stamped by the federal court, because before she built a single brick, I already trademarked the name of this hotel, and I registered the business license in my name. The crowd gasped again. One neighbor whispered, "He thought of everything." Karen pounded on the window of the cruiser, screaming, "No! That's not legal. It's mine. It's all mine." But deep down she knew the truth. The judge's stamp on my paperwork was ironclad. I turned back to the officer and said, "She tried to trap me in her fake system." But what she didn't know was that I had already burned her system down months ago. The officer smirked, shut the folder, and said, "Looks like justice already beat her to the punch." The next morning, the story was everywhere, on local news, online forums, even trending hashtags with clips of Karen screaming from the back of the police car. Headlines read, "HOA President Builds. Hotel on Wrong Man's Land Backfires Spectacularly. Neighbors who once stayed silent now came to my driveway, shaking my hand, thanking me." One man said, "You didn't just win for yourself, you freed all of us." Another added, "She made us live in fear. Now we can finally breathe." The hotel's lights glowed that night like a monument. But this time it wasn't a symbol of her control. It was proof of her downfall and my victory. I stood on my porch watching families walk past, their faces lighter, their voices brighter. For the first time in years, this neighborhood felt alive. Karen, meanwhile, faced charges of fraud, impersonation, and illegal construction, and with the footage, the deeds, and the neighbors' testimonies, there was no escape for her. The same arrogance that built her fake empire had destroyed her. I looked back at the hotel and couldn't help but smile. "She thought she took everything from me," I said softly, almost to myself. But all she really did was hand me more than I ever dreamed. And in that quiet moment, with my land secured, my neighbors free, and Karen's lies shattered, I felt something stronger than revenge. It was justice. Because in this country, you don't steal a man's land and walk away free. Not on my watch. Not ever.